And we're live. Welcome to PCS Grades, PCS Q&A, Coronavirus Edition. I'm your host, MJ Boyce. I'm the Director of Community Outreach at PCS Grades. With us today, we have Megan Harless, who is our PCS Reform Advocate, and our special guest, John Becker. But before we introduce them, just a couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll move on to Megan's awesome updates, because you know we have them, because they're plenty. So first things first, when it comes to information, we got you back, okay? But the end-all, be-all, accurate, reliable sources for your individual specific situations will forever and always be your chain of command and your local transportation office. Those are the people who know you. Those are the people who know your situation. Those are the people who are going to take care of you. They know your stuff. So they are the ones that you want to reach out to with those very specific questions. That being said, we bring on special guests from any type of industry, since the coronavirus is impacting all aspects of military life at this point, whether that be our children's education, whether that be our moves, whether that be our home buying and selling or orders being delayed. All of those things are impacted no matter what, so we're bringing the experts to you so that you can ask those questions live. Also, we're here to answer those questions, and so is our subject matter expert. If we don't know the answer, we'll find you the person who does. And if we don't know either of those things, we will take your questions for action, and we'll get you those answers at a later time. Last but not least, we are flattening the curve. That is our goal. We are all doing our part to flatten the curve, and guess what, y'all? We're going to flatten Murphy with it. Boom. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Megan Harless, our PCS Reform Advocate.
Hello, everybody. So the stop-move order is still in effect, still until June 30th. They are going to look at reviewing that every 2 weeks to see if they can curtail it and end it sooner, or if they need to extend it. But there has been no change to that date, so it's still June 30th. A couple updates to go with that. If you haven't seen, if you're in the Army, there is a new Army app out called Army PCS Move that is there for you. It's available on iPhone and Android, where you can kind of download, connects you together, keeps all of your stuff organized for you. You still have to log into DPS though to set up your move. If you are a Navy family, the Navy has realized that the stop-move order and the coronavirus has really thrown a big wrench into a lot of spouses and employment and their licensing requirements. So they have taken the licensing reimbursement requirements, and they've extended that deadline. So if you've moved anytime between December 12th, 2017 to June 30th, 2019, you now have a new deadline of June 30th, 2021 to apply for your reimbursement on your spouse licensing if you've had to PCS during that time. As far as PCSs do go right now during the stop move, yesterday with Transcom, we talked heavily about the PPMs, the previously known as ditties, where you do it yourself moves. A big thing that they kind of emphasize is that in order to do a PPM, you need to have hard orders in hand. And in order to do a PPM, you have to set it up with your transportation office and have it approved by them to where you get your counseling and get all your forms, so that way you can be reimbursed. So as long as you have your hard orders and you have talked to transportation office, you can go ahead and book your U-Haul, book your pods, book whatever mode transportation is that you're using for your PPM. The big thing they also emphasized about was your weight tickets. You do need weight tickets. So if you are still hiring a company on your own to move you, you still need to receive weight tickets from them, not just a receipt of what you paid for them. But as we receive more information, as things change, we'll be bringing them here to you. MJ?
Yeah, actually, we have a question here from Daniel. Hello, Daniel. Thank you for asking this question. He wants to know, just to be sure, at this point, Transcom has authorized household goods packing up to 30 days prior to a soldier's departure date, not the report date. In other words, a soldier could depart July 1st and have their household goods packed in June with no ETP. Is that accurate? Is that what you were saying?
So from my understanding with Transcom with that is that if you need to vacate housing, you sold your house, you your lease is up, you need to vacate housing, you can have your stuff picked up without an ATP. If you want your stuff packed and picked up because you want to try to get ahead of it, you can do that as well, but your stuff is going to sit in storage. If you want your stuff moved or shipped, you're going to have to get that exception to policy and that waiver in order for that to happen.
Okay. And he also says he can send the relevant email from Transcom if needed, and that it relates to the U.S. Transcom Personal Property Advisory and the update. That is information that you have, correct?
It is, yeah. So if he wants to send us a message and everything, we can be able to get him information connected where he needs to be.
Did you get the update to the advisory?
The newest one, the D update?
Yeah.
I did receive that, yes.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, our dear Megan here is a member of the Transcom Advisory Board with a number of other stakeholders as well to kind of help advocate for us. And that's one of the reasons why she's such an awesome PCS reform advocate. I couldn't love anybody else to advocate for me, by the way. But I'm partial because she's my buddy. All right. Thank you so much, Megan, for those updates. And thank you, Daniel, for reaching out. Now we're going to move on to our special guest. Mr. John Becker is with the American Moving and Storage Association. If you could go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. I retired for, did 20 years in the Air Force, worked at TMO for 20 years, retired, went to work on DPS development and went to work for SDC. When I left, I was in charge of the rates team. Left there after 4 years and joined AMSA as the director of military policy. Right now, I'm interim president. I talk with services, Megan, all the time. We're representing all the moving companies in the U.S. Right now, we have 3,500 members, but we do represent American moving companies, international companies as well. All the big van lines, small movers as well. So, and that's pretty much it. It's just
Pretty much.
We never expected this. So, this, 2020 was supposed to be fun. But
yeah, okay. Thanks, Murphy. So as a retired Air Force veteran, you have to admit Murphy's Law. I know you have an intimate relationship with Murphy, just like the rest of us do. Yep. Okay. Yep. And let me tell you, people, I love you so much that I'm going to give you a little hint. It does not go away once you leave service. Murphy, if you have military affiliation or had at some point, he's gonna come find you. He's gonna peek his head in and be like, "How you doing?" every now and again. That's gonna happen.
Just to follow that, Murphy's Law, I got promoted to interim president in December. And March, I had to cancel a conference, and this, COVID-19 starts up. Stop. Mm-hmm. Never expected this.
Oh, no. And really, who did? And that's the biggest thing. And that's why we have you on here today, because you are the subject matter expert. You know what's going on with those boots on the ground with our movers in the moving industry. So I'm going to launch right into these questions really quick. We're trying to establish expectations because we all don't know what to expect. Nobody does. We know 100% that this isn't going to look like any other peak PCS season. And that in itself, it can throw a family in the ringer. So I'm going to start off with my first question on behalf of families is, okay, I kind of want to get a perspective of how disruptive COVID and the stop movement have been on shipments. So my question is, compared to last year, how different is it? How disruptive is COVID? Is the stop move order, and how many shipments are being serviced and shipped compared to last year? So the difference between last year and this year, what's different? Let's put that in perspective.
It's a very drastic difference. Normally, all the moving companies are ramping up and hiring different people, training them for the summer. So now they're not hiring. So just on week 12, the stop movement order, 2019, there was 5,000 shipments moved. This year was 2160. That's 39% of the normal. So, different weeks are different. Week 13, that was 32%. Week 13, that was 34%. Week 14 and 15, that's 26% of the normal. So
do you see it? It's kind of going down, like with each week that we drag this, that this is, that the stop move is in effect, it's going down and down, and less people are moving.
Yeah. So normally,
ramp it up.
Well, and normally, in March and April, you're doing 4,000 to 6,000 shipments a week. And it ramps up until the peak of the peak, which is June, the last week of June, first week of July. But we're seeing today that it's, decreasing. We're barely at 4,000 or 2,000 shipments for this week as well. So it has an impact. Different companies are still operating.
Just not at the capacity that they were.
Yeah. So we understand that DoD has to protect service members. I get that. I'm all for that. But, in some cases, retirements, separations, mission essential moves, they're going to happen. But we're not seeing the same ramp up that we are used to as well. But I'll say this, the last week of May, first week of June, we're seeing 55% and 68% of moves already in the system as well.
Okay.
So setting expectation management this year for families that are moving either during the stop move order or preparing for July right after the stop move order, what should families expect? Will there be delays in shipments? Will there be longer transit times? Without the normal gear up for peak season that we normally have every year, will there be crews and companies available to help families move when the order is lifted? What should families expect in general going into this?
We don't know what the workup is going to be. With the review every 2 weeks of the stop movement order, different companies are planning on June 30th to hire, get crews on by that time so they can be normal across the country. But, if you bring on 150 people and you don't have any business, that's a concern. So we're talking with Transcom to figure out how they ramp up, because you can't go from 0 to 1,000 overnight. But we're willing to work with the industry or services to figure out what the best capacity is for each week. So it's nowhere close to the normal at all. But different companies are planning on mid-June to late June, early July to have crews, drivers in place to move as normal. Now, the new normal is, sliding to the right. Normally it's, June is, every week in June is above 10,000 shipments, and July is below 10,000 shipments. Roughly 8,000 to 9,000 shipments in July, and then August, is down to 6,500 shipments a week. I could see this moving to the right, and July being increase at 9 or 10,000 shipments a week, and August being, 8,000 shipments a week, and September being 6,000 to 7,000 shipments a week.
So I'm just going to follow up a little bit on that. Let's put it in perspective. Say I'm a Marine spouse, hoorah, yacht kill, semper fi. So if my husband has orders, right, we're supposed to move end of June, and let's say, they come pick up our stuff. Should I expect a delay on receiving my items, my household goods? Should I plan for these potential delays? Because let's face it, just like you said, I mean, you can't go from 0 to full throttle. The readiness in this industry, it's just not there. So there's a process. It's a house of cards. If one thing falls, if one decision is made, everything comes tumbling down. Everything is impacted, right? So if I'm supposed to move, how long should I reasonably, expect to be waiting for my goods? Or, and I guess that just kind of comes right in. Should I prepare myself, and how can I prepare to make my move a little bit more smooth on the back end with all of these variables that we're doing in the moving industry?
Yeah. So I forgot to answer that question. It's not, it's something that we can't predict, but every situation is different, right? So based on where you're going, the weight, everything, we're going to do our best to avoid those delays.
Mm-hmm.
Different moving companies, agents, SIT deliveries are going to, want to meet the customers' demands as well. So if we ramp up and, doing 15,000 shipments a week, yeah, that's going to be a problem. And we told that to Transcom and the services. If we limit, per week what is moved, they're going to have better options for capacity, deliveries, drivers, everything. So right now, this morning we had a conversation with Transcom, a small group, talking about that same thing. And we're going to, be working on that with the services because they extended the transit times based on every 5 days, they added 1 day. So domestically, the biggest increase is 4 or 5 days. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Internationally, it's capped out at 20 days. But because they're having issues in different ports, different countries, clearing customs, everything. So
we actually have a couple of questions coming in because this must be a hot button issue. Obviously, we spoke about that earlier. So I'm just going to go down the line real quick. Usually we save these for the end, but I mean, these are really great questions. So Natalie kind of touched on similar, is it possible that the moving companies will be so booked that they'll have to move their own household goods, even if they don't want to? Because we've been hearing some rumors that people should be preparing to do a personally procured move, the PPM, versus a formerly known as Diddy. It's my era is Diddy, versus that, just to at least prepare. So is it possible that they'll be so overbooked that families will have to move themselves, even if they don't want to?
in some cases, based on when you want to move, that could be real. But as an industry advocate, I will say no, because different people will move you, approve within the program. It's if the July 1st, there's 20,000 people want to move on July 1st. There's, different discussion. But if you're willing to maneuver your dates, they'll get you moved as well, because they want, they're in business to move you as well.
So who should they talk to? Who should Natalie talk to if she's concerned about, having to do a Diddy move if her family isn't, doesn't want to do that?
Well, the transportation office could provide those comments or information. I was wanting to see. So I would talk to your transportation office, PIPO, PIPSO, GIPSO, wherever you're at. I would talk to them and get a clear understanding of what your options are. They can tell you if you're having issues getting a shipment booked. Normally it's the Friday, the last week of June. The Friday is always the nightmare for booking, deliveries, everything, because everybody wants to move, the last week of June. I did that, on the services side. That was the nightmare week, because you had people walk in on Monday, want to move on Friday, but you can't do that. So I would go into the transportation office today.
You mean call them?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Email first if you can. So Transcom yesterday said to try emailing your transportation office first, because a lot of them are working with skeleton crews, if anybody in the offices, and some calls aren't forwarding. So email first. And if you don't know the email or the contact info, move.mil under customer service. It has where you can find all of the contact information for those transportation and shipping offices that you need to get a hold of.
Yeah, I was going to make that same point, because I'm having issues getting a hold of different people. So I'm having an email as well. So
I'm going to go ahead and let Megan finish with these questions. And I want everybody to know, both Lizanne, Lisa, Emily, we're going to get your questions answered at the end. I promise. I want you to know that we are going to go through it.
So moving on to our next question, John, what can families be doing during this time to prepare for their move and to help make sure that it's going to go smoothly when it comes time for their move?
I would say the normal things that you do movement wise, purging, different items, consolidating things, going through, different boxes that you haven't unpacked in 5 years.
Can I just say, I still have a box that has been packed from Hawaii. By the way, we haven't lived there since 2007.
You have to unpack every box. Listen, I've had this conversation with so
I
many.
know.
You have to unpack every single box. Even if you rip it open and you take a look at what's inside and you quickly go through it, you have to unpack every box. Otherwise, you get that box, MJ, that gets moved from house to house to house, and you just shove it in a closet and nobody knows what's in it until you're retired. And then it's just like, oh yeah, I've been looking for that for the last 5 years. Unpack every box, people.
I will say that I would agree with that 100% because I moved last year from Illinois to Virginia and moved into a house in January of this year and had boxes that were packed up in 99 and never opened them up from Virginia to Australia. And I didn't realize what was in the box. So I've been dragging this around for 4 moves and never knew what was in there. So it was junk and I threw it away.
I mean,
Darn.
that's 30 pounds of weight on your weight allotment right there.
Yeah.
Go through your boxes.
Yeah. I would say that just prepare different items, pictures, take them off the wall and, organize based on where are you going, storage wise, baggage wise, house of good wise, just divide those up as well.
So hold on. So, yeah, I promise. Oh my gosh, you guys are asking such great questions. I mean, they're following in. Ruth, Sheila, Katie, if you're just joining us, we're going to get to those questions towards the end. I promise you, we're going to address each and every one of you. You'll see your little icon pop up on the screen. We're almost there. Okay. So with COVID, with safety, with worrying about the masks and, staying safe, what precautions is the moving industry and moving companies taking to help prevent contamination or the spread of the virus? And what precautions should families be taking as well?
They're following the CDC guidelines. They're wear a mask, gloves as well, washing their hands. They're trying to stay away from people, but when you're packing, that's impossible. Loading as well. They're doing the same things that families are doing. They want to be safe. Different drivers and crews want to get back home. You have a driver that's, on the East Coast and they live on the West Coast. Their family wants to see them, right? So they're protecting themselves. I would ask, different people were asking crews to wear masks before they're issued the guidelines. And that was back in early March. But if you're going to ask somebody to do that, do it yourself. I would say that. If you have you're exposed to the virus, let the company know as well. They can be extra cautious and clean everything. There's some different guidance that came out last night that, they're going to certify that the crew's been checked. You ask all the questions for the CDC. They're going to provide that to you. I think that's going to go in effect in 1 May. And that's going to be until probably July as well. So you're going to get that conversation with the packing crew on what they've been exposed to, everything. But just be honest about what you've done as well. If you've been exposed, we've seen different cases where had one company in the beginning, this is not a military move, but they packed a guy up on Monday. On Tuesday, they called him back, and it didn't find out he was positive, and he was in the hospital on Tuesday morning. And they had to shut down for 2 weeks, their entire company, because they, the crew interacted with the office, the warehouse manager, different crews. They were being cautious and had to shut down for 2 weeks. They were good, but that cost them as well. So,
Right.
just be safe. I would say, if you had children in the house, either set up a room and they're in that room all the day, because you don't want, crews interacting with your kids, or they don't want to be interacting with your kids as well. Even, during this time, it's very different. In the past, you'd send it to your neighbors, or they're in daycare, or,
Yeah, can't do that today. Nope. We have to fly solo on so many different things. And that's so frustrating because let's just go ahead and put it out there. All of us at PCS, and we can safely say that it's a pretty crappy situation as is. It's very stressful as it is. And you add the effects of COVID, which also include, hey, my neighbor who would typically babysit for me cannot now because we need to maintain social distancing. That was me voguing. But I'm in my box. But yeah, it's all, it's already difficult and it's already impacting that. So, I guess that makes sense. Megan, did you want to take that?
Yeah, so for PPMs, we've had a lot of people asking about PPMs. A lot of people are now looking to do a PPM, because they want to be able to control their move a little better during this virus time. They want to be able to ensure they're not going to have a delay in receiving their household goods during this time. For those families that want to do a PPM, what advice can you give them?
If you're not doing the move yourself, by renting a Penske truck or Ryder or U-Haul, and packing up your boxes and loading that shipment up. If you're reaching out to a different company to come in, pack it up, move your shipment, I would be very cautious. In some cases, you go out to Google and search for moving companies, and you see advertisements for East Coast to West Coast, $900. That's great. You can't drive East Coast to West Coast in a truck for $900.
Nope.
So I would be very cautious. I would direct, even our website, moving.org. You can go to that website. There's a consumer link, and you have top 10 movement tips. I would set a move up with a verified moving company. Review them on BBB, FMCSA's website, to see what the complaints are. You have to get a estimate in writing, either by email or document wise. And it has to be weight based, not cubic foot based. So there's on our website, the moving tips, there's a your rights and responsibilities when you move. There's a guidance from FMCSA and DOT that provides that. If you have, you want to find a pro mover, you look on our website as well. So our members operate by the FMCSA guidelines. So I would recommend, if you want to hire a moving company to move your stuff and pack it up, I would be very concise and follow the rules. I get probably 10 or 15 calls a year since 2015 of different people that did a move with they found the cheapest one they could, and the shipment is held hostage. They're, in some cases they're packing a load up, and they load it and they shut the door and say, well, you paid $2,000, we need $5,000, and they drive away. And you're without your stuff for 2 or 3 years, or 2 or 3 months, not years. You see that all the time. And, you do that under PPM. I would go into the transportation office and do that, or either go into the office or do that by DPS and get to 2278. That is the form that will show you what you're going to make 95% wise. So you.
What do you mean? What do you mean by 95%?
Yeah, so you get paid 95% of what the DoD is going to spend for your move, based on your estimate, destination, or origin, destination, the miles, everything. Mm-hmm. So you get a good number, so you can plan on the move as well.
Okay.
So I would do that first to see what you have as an option.
Okay, and this question, so we have Courtney Morey. Thank you, Courtney, for this question. This is a relevant question. And Megan, you might know a little bit more about this as well. I don't know. Is there any news on increasing that reimbursement for personally prepared moves? Is there any, no?
Maybe, we're not sure yet. So the Army had recently put on a survey a couple days ago, earlier this week, about, what incentives people would want to see for a PPM this year. It had questions on there from increasing it from the 95% that John mentioned to 100%. It included additional days off to allow them to be able to pack their home. Some other incentives in there as well. So we're looking for feedback to see what incentives families wanted. Again, that was just an Army survey. I'm not sure what the other services had done. On our call with Transcom yesterday, we had asked about that. And the Army said that, they're looking at it, but nothing's finalized yet. But increasing the PPM incentive is something that we've been working on with Transcom for about the last year to get that extra 5% with families. We're still kind of trying to push for it, but as of right now, there is nothing finalized for any increased incentive for PPMs.
So anybody, whether that's Transcom or DoD or whomever, please understand that this is a widely asked question, and that this is something that you would really love to look over and see if it's possible, especially in light of the unprecedented events due to COVID. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to start going through some of these questions, and I'm going to try and go through them in kind of like similar batches. So let's talk Oconus, okay? Let's talk Oconus. Okay, Lisa. For Oconus moves, you pack out in June, including express shipment. What will that express shipment be held back as well? Because I know that CONUS aspect has a few more variables involved than if you're doing a CONUS move. So if they packed out in June, will that be held back?
I haven't heard that. Well, there's,
what had happened was,
yeah, no, we haven't heard that yet because OCONUS is the, different transit times. The express shipment, based on where it's going, different issues because air carriers are limiting the flights because there's reduced flights. So cargo capacity is in demand. But household goods wise, it's going to move. If you got approval to move, unless that country is shut down, it's going to move. What?
Okay.
I just wanted to add on to there real quick. What we talked with Transcom yesterday is that they said, things, it should move, as John said, but to just keep in mind, different countries also have their different regulations and stuff in place due to the virus right now as well. So even if it leaves the US and it arrives to some overseas country, there's a chance it might be delayed there for a few days or something as they go through their country's regulation and process to get cargo moving or to get people moving in and out. So just be aware of whatever country you're going to or from, what their cargo and people movement regulations look like right now.
So, and that's interesting.
Well, in some cases, the customers have, limited spots. They're closing different ports, and they're all driving that one thing or shipments to one port. So that's creating a backlog as well.
Okay, and so, for instance, different regions and different countries being shut down in different manners and their processes being totally different. Kara, hi Kara, wants to know if do you all know anything about shipments, going from Europe to the U.S.? Do you think it'll take a little bit longer?
The same issues coming back to the States are facing the, from U.S. to Europe as well. So they're going to have issues. It's not going to be negative. Even the different ocean carriers are delaying shipments. Ships are not moving the same way as well. So it could be, a week delay, but we're not seeing a ton of shipments delayed. When they get to the U.S., they're having to go to ports as well. And different ports, are rotating different days when they're closed because the virus-wise, Baltimore has issues, New York, I think New Jersey, Charleston, they're all having different issues. So you can't know right away when that moves, but it's still moving as well.
So, and I'm assuming, hi Katie, thank you so much for your question. So that's kind of what you mean in terms of what she's asking, different things that we should be cognizant of, or different hurdles that we might need to jump through if we were PCSing to Europe as well.
Yeah. So the same things because, different, countries are operating differently because there's no standard operating guidelines. Every country's following.
So bottom line with this OCONUS, it's not only are we dealing with our country's variables, we are also dealing with another country's variables as well. Which is,
to the Oconee situation too is that we've seen a lot of talk in the spouse groups about passports as being an issue as well. That from my understanding right now, the State Department, they're not doing any expedited passports for any reason. So if you are on overseas assignment, if you do need a passport for some reason, to get that application in as soon as possible, to get that process rolling, because you're probably looking at more than the max time that they normally do to process those.
That is a good tip, because I wouldn't have even, most of us are like worried about, can my stuff go? Will it be there when I get there? How long will it take to get there? That's what we're like focused on. But there are so many other different things that go into making an Oconus move, to include passports. I'd probably show up to the airport and completely have forgotten. Like, that's how, well, I promise I'm smart. But this would be such a huge thing weighing on my mind. I'd be like, okay, I finally got here. Oh, I didn't do all the things. But that's just me. And it probably wouldn't happen that way. So, I mean, wow, these are a lot of good questions. So a couple of these, a lot of people are asking about, let's see. If the summer PCS season is shifted due to everything going on, are you anticipating the winter PCS season to be quote unquote normal, whatever the heck that is, right, Emily? Or will that be, will it be drastically impacted? Like, is that kind of too early to project? Is it a wait and see kind of thing?
I think so, because, in the winter season, they're moving roughly 4,000 shipments a week. And we can manage that. Worst case, it's going to 5,000. But I don't see a, major impact to winter peak season. Now, I could see an increase in December shipments, because based on the delays, you keep your kids in school for the first semester and you move at wintertime, the winter break. So, we normally see a spike in demand in the probably November, last week of November, first week December as well. So I think it's going to be the normal as well.
Like, that's exactly right. Like, it's so hard to define normal in our life as it is. Throw a little bit of twist on top, and here we are.
Normal.
And actually, Lizanne, hi, Lizanne. Lizanne also, with those with orders in the fall want to know, like, how much will that affect them? Like, should those with orders, pushed further out, should they anticipate delays or trouble scheduling packouts, even going into the school year? Is that something that is going to be difficult to project, or do you think that by then you might have a handle on things?
I think by then we'll have a handle on, things, because, based on the demand, crews are, different companies are going to respond. It's what we don't know today, but as, she's talking about, if you're looking at September, by then we'll have an idea of how many crews to keep on, hire. We see a decrease in crews in August or late August, because you got college students going back to school, different drivers. I know one driver that's a teacher, and he spent the summer driving around and moving house goods, and goes back to teaching high school.
So, why? I mean, no, not why is he a teacher? Oh my God, bless my educators out there. But I meant moonlight. Wow.
Why not enjoy the summer off as a teacher where you can relax? But
yeah.
I mean, it's a way to have a vacation and to see the country.
Yep.
can get
I
paid.
like how positive you're thinking.
I mean, they get paid, during the summer with how their salary is broken up. So why not get paid to go see the country?
Very positive guy. So
I like it. Sheila, hey girl, how are ya? So she said, while we're waiting for exception to policy for packouts to be processed for their lease termination prior to the end of stop move, is there anything that we can do to avoid our scheduled date getting canceled? Is there anything?
I would talk to the GIPSO or transportation office and make sure of everything with your shipment. If you don't talk to the transportation office, it's not going to get canceled. The GIPSO, PIPSO has to cancel the shipment as well. So I would talk to your move coordinator, and they might have contacts with the base. You can reach out to the base as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then we have also Jen here. So if we have hard orders and we pack out for our pack out scheduled for mid-July, TSP and moving company already assigned, do we have to worry about our move getting rescheduled because all of the postponed March to June moves? So will they get bumped back in terms of prioritization? Like,
I think not, because you did the right thing getting booked early. So that shipment is against that TSP. If you're moving in mid-July, there's only 318 shipments booked already. So that's, TSPs are looking for your move. So I wouldn't consider that a concern at all.
And to add to that too, Jen, a lot of those that had those March to June orders, some of them are filing for the exception to policy so they can continue to move now. And then others are also receiving amended orders for later report dates. So it's not like it's going to get backed up into your week of when you're scheduled to move.
Because that was a concern, because in March and April, you had 40,000 shipments that are going to be dumped in June and July with normal increases to moves. But the services realized that, based on different comments, they're moving those, extending those report dates as well.
okay. And we've got Carlise. Hi. So for Oconus moves this summer, I know USAGN's back will be doing a 14-day quarantine for those who are arriving. Do you know if there will be a quarantine at other Oconus duty stations or for Oconus moves back home to CONUS duty stations?
That's a tough question, because we've seen the different guidance from different states. It's, based on your hotspots. I will say this, had a report yesterday or Monday that a company was, the service member scheduled a delivery. They showed up, found out that the family was quarantined, self-quarantined for 14 days. Because they came from a different area. So don't schedule a move, either delivery wise, when you're self-quarantining, because that, brings everybody at risk as well. So I'll say that. Because even Hawaii has the same thing. You have 14 days quarantine when you fly to Hawaii. I would love to take a business trip to Hawaii and stay there for 3 weeks. Just
Yes. Yes. Okay, and then we did have a question. What is the application that was mentioned earlier to download? And I think that
It was
well,
there was either one of two things. So the Army has a new PCS app, if that's what you're talking about. It's called Army PCS Move on Android and iPhone that you can get. And then John had mentioned
the 2278
is
CPU.
yes. So all of the links that we discussed today will be input into the comment section here shortly, right after the live video, so that you can reference back. And we will also have a blog recap on PCSgrades.com on our blog, going through the bullet points and the video as well to reference when we're done here, so that you can just click a button and go straight to the resource that we offered. Let me make sure that we got everybody. I think we did. Wow, we had a lot of great questions today. I mean, I'm going to tell you what, John, you take the cake. You take the cake. This is the most questions, but this is just goes to show just how relevant this topic is. You know what I mean? When it comes to the bottom line is, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of the information that you all passed today, I didn't even know. And this ain't my first rodeo. So that says something.
Well, it's very important for the service members, families to get adjusted to a new location. And you do that routinely in the summer. This is very different. It's just very frustrating to plan ahead. This was not expected at all. So we're willing to, industry is willing to work with the services, Transcom, to make this as smooth as possible as well. So I'll say that if you have, different people if you have any questions or concerns, talk to your TSP, the move coordinator, or if you don't have a TSP assigned yet, talk to the base. Based on, how we're working today, I would send that, backing up Megan's comment, send an email. You can find those on move.mil as well. So,
and we'll be posting those links from move.mil. We'll be posting the links from moving.org as well as any email addresses that are pertinent too. So before we go, any questions that you have, if you're watching the replay, leave those questions in the box, because Megan and I will keep in touch with John. So if there's any saved rounds that you have, I know you love that term. If there's any saved rounds that you have, go ahead and ask it in the comments. We'll get back to you. If we don't know the answer, we know who does. If we don't know who does, we will take it for action. And John has been very gracious to help us out. We can just shoot him an email if we need to. And so that is PCS Q&A Coronavirus Edition with our buddy John Becker. And of course, as always, our PCS reform advocate, Megan Harless. And we hope you join us next week, Wednesday at 2 p.m. for PCS News. Bye, everybody.